Well, we're flowing. Episode 20, which means we are now officially top 1% podcast globally.
It's awesome.
Big things popping, and we're just getting started too. I mean, just think that we're doing this thing, we're growing it, and we're really not able, because of time constraints, able to actually promote it properly.
Yeah.
So just think about how good that is.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
And you know what? I love it because we're not promoting it it per se, but that's kind of when everyone talks about kind of filling the karma bank or, being that person that people want to show up for. Like you and I have had many, many years of pouring into people. And of course, our friends that we force to listen because we send them the links. But there's a lot of other people around that we know and we love and we trust that also know, love, and trust us. And, it's not by accident. None of this is by accident. Any success is not by accident. Now you can stumble into some good situations, but I'm super proud of us. Thank you.
Yeah,
I feel like
I
you've
said,
created this vehicle for us.
Hey, it takes two to tango.
Yeah.
I mean, and you've brought all the amazing guests we've had. Just to kind of recap, after we never got to debrief after the episode with Amy. It was a really, really quick turnaround. I think I had the episode out the same night.
Yes.
I was like ready to go and reactivate my real estate license after chatting to her. I was like, wow, so motivating.
She's
awesome. Her
awesome.
team and the people she mentors are really, really lucky.
Really lucky. And unless you've
Well, I
experienced
shouldn't say lucky, blessed.
You what?
I shouldn't say lucky, they're blessed.
They are.
Nothing's lucky.
They're a little both, and I just have this privilege of being peeked behind the curtain, only for the past 2 years with her. And she's had a lot leading up to that, but to watch her and be alongside her at, and have her trust in me. Like we had her dismantle her team in the beginning. It was really scary for her. And to be honest, as a coach, because I was more coach consultant, like I am with a lot of my real estate clients, you're encouraging someone to undo something that they've built. And that's when you're doing it for yourself, it's like, okay, well, high risk, high reward, and you'll take it on, as your own responsibility. But when you're encouraging someone else to do that, it's a scary place because you're like, oh man, like what if this blows up? I knew it was what she needed to do.
Yeah.
But she needed to lean on my belief in it a little bit in the beginning to really cut some of those cords that she did. And, but if you don't believe in your clients, like I have full faith in her that anything that she does is going to be successful. Anything she commits to, she's going to do. So, as a coach, if you don't believe in your clients 110%, you shouldn't be coaching them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting from the fitness aspect of it, right? Like the people I still train now, they're all people that, they're still with me for a reason.
Yeah.
And there are some people I can't train anymore just because of time commitments and schedule stuff. But there are quite a lot that just kind of fell to the wayside because they weren't committed, and they didn't want to put the time or the effort in.
I have definitely had times where I'm like, this person is paying me to be their friend.
Yeah.
And like I'm not doing my job if I'm allowing that to happen. Now, we definitely develop friendships, but
of course.
I'm their coach and I'm there for a reason. So top 1%, thank you. And that's awesome. You messaged me yesterday with your idea around today's episode, and I loved it. And I'd love for you to kind of set the stage and the tone for what we're going to talk about.
Well, I will. I certainly will, and I'm not going to do it in French. There's a little inside joke there. But I did want to read because we didn't do our usual kind of catching up.
Yeah.
Last episodes. I know we both had a little bit of downtime the last couple weeks. I went back to England for the first time in 10 years.
Love it.
Which was amazing. Got to see some people I love dearly that I hadn't seen 8 years. One of my best friends, and then his parents I hadn't seen in 10 years. It was just great. Took Mason. Yep. He wants to move there now. Weather was incredible. Didn't see a cloud in the sky. But the reason I bring it up is because something that really hit me while I was there oh, I was really on the way back. I was kind of on the flight and reflected on it that 10 years have gone by, and I was like, how much stuff has happened in my life in those 10 years? Had two kids, went through the divorce, opened a business, had all the drama with that, exited the business, COVID, of course. I mean, everybody lived through that. The relationships I was in, the relationship I was in, etc., etc. And then you're catching up with people, and you realize none of the drama matters, none of the bullshit matters. That was nothing. No one talked about it. No one cared about where I lived, the size of my house. We talked about the car I drive just because my best friend loves that car, and they don't really sell them in England too much. But it wasn't about like your social status or anything. It was just like how are you?
Yeah.
How is the family? Things that you're interested in, and it was just it was a nice kind of reset of like, all right, I want certain things. Like, I want that 911 Carrera. Um, but, you know, it's not what the priority is. That's the result of what's really important to me, which is, health, coaching people at doing that. So it was really nice to kind of be like, oh, that stuff's not actually important. And we spend so much time stressing about it.
Yeah.
But when you strip it all down, people love you for you, not for what you've got. That
Absolutely.
was that was a nice reminder of that.
My favorite thing was I can still picture it. Mason standing, the backdrop is a soccer field, or what you call it, a football field.
Pitch,
A what?
football pitch.
A football pitch. He just had this huge smile on his face. And I remember you and I sitting in Starbucks, when we first met
Yeah, when we first met. Yeah,
and talking about some of the things that you wanted to do and going to England with the family and going to England on your own, was one of those things. And you put a stake in the ground then, right? And you even put it on the calendar. And I know there was a point where it came up on the calendar and it was like, oh man, I'm not doing that. But
yeah,
you set an intention and that was that reminder. And here,
yeah,
only a few months later, you went and you went with
yeah,
Mason. And the smile on his face is worth 2911s, right?
yeah,
It's beautiful. And it's a great testament what you just said about the 10 years going by. We often overestimate what we can do in a year and underestimate what we can do in 3 years.
yeah,
So you might have overestimated what you could do that first year, right? The vacations, the this, or that. But you're underestimating where you will be in 3 years. You might be. I'm not saying that you are, but
yeah.
so much. Like you can we can do so much. So I loved it. And I love seeing those photos and I love knowing that you were there and you were living something that you had set an intention to.
Yeah. And it's funny, kind of to your point, like so much can change in 10 years, but then also so much stays the same.
Yeah.
It was really, being so removed from it for so long, it was nice to go back and you realize the little things that I did miss and did like about living over there. But then also grateful for what I've got. I had wife and other kiddo back home,
Yeah.
so it was, missed them too. But yeah, it was great. But like I said, that lesson was really really important for me, just to remember it's about who you are, not what you've got.
Yeah. Yes,
You know.
absolutely.
But
I
anyway, I wanted to hear about your trip because I saw you got a little sneaky getaway. I don't even know where it was.
so I had crazy town, right, with work. I was in two cities every day
Yeah.
almost. It was awesome. Worked with three different companies. Sam did two keynotes. Then we kicked off with, the company I told you about, Pathways. They work
Hmm.
with autistic individuals and families to live the most fulfilling life. And they've got everything from, daycare to development, and really interesting to start diving into that field. And I have to tell you, it means something different to me having you and Fred in my life,
Yeah.
both with children on the spectrum, I guess. I'm always a
Yeah.
little worried about not being politically correct because I know,
I'm not a
I
politically
know.
correct person, so
Well, you create a safe space for me, and
yeah,
Fred creates a safe space. Standing up in front of a room of leaders that are working with these individuals, and they call them individuals. I'm like, do they call them clients? Do they call them
yeah,
customers? It's a whole new world, and working with this non-for-profit, which we kind of call them quasi-profit. They're actually doing about 50 million, but they're servicing a huge amount of the community.
Yeah.
Um, it means something different to me because of how much, I love you guys. And even though I don't, I've never even met your boys.
That's right. God, we gotta fix that.
I know we need to do a hike or paddle boarding or something.
Yeah.
Um, but it just means something different. So, and it was awesome. We had a great day working on their core values and basically kicked off a year-long contract with them. And um, it was great. And I was exhausted by the time I got home. Like my calves were definitely in the back of my knees from standing for so many days and just being off and on planes. And I think when I got back to Newark, I'm like, where am I even? My brother picked me up, which was awesome, so much better than an Uber. And there's just something nice about coming home to someone that loves you and cares about you. And
Yeah.
my mom was so excited for me to get home, and the dog, and of course Ben. And um I was home for basically 24 hours and then repacked again to go to we went to Crystal Springs up in North
I
Jersey.
had a feeling that's where it was. Okay.
Yeah, we went to the Minerals Hotel,
Hmm.
which is the more family friendly part. Um and the first night Ben came up with the kids, so it was always four children the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
And we just, it was kind of, oh my God, it was snowing. It was literally a snowstorm. There was snow on the ground. Was wild. It was like going into a different world. And then my best girlfriend Jamie came with. You met Jamie
Yeah.
with her husband Ben. My Ben left. Jamie and Ben and their
Only
three
one
kids.
Ben at a time.
One Ben and only one. Well, we've had both Bens, and my girlfriend's children. They think that their dad, right? That Ben is like number one Ben. So the Bens get different names. And what we ended up realizing was, I'm so close with my girlfriends, my two girlfriends, and my other girlfriend Kristen, who you met, who just
Mm-hmm.
had the baby. So I have one child. My Ben has three children. My girlfriend has three children, and now Kristen has the one. And I'm like, we're gonna be rolling 12 deep, like on
Yeah.
vacations. And just thinking back to the days when we would be like walking on the beach together in our 20s, before children, in and out of relationships, and to be sitting side by side taking pictures of our children that are now, going to be teenagers.
Oof.
Um like that's so special. It's so special. And it does roll into what we want to talk about today, but goes back to your point of, yeah, we had to have money to go and do this trip. There's got to be, you have to be able to fund the life that you want to live. But it wasn't about anything but laughing together and spending the
Yeah.
time together. And you know we even, we mother each other's children a little bit. Even, her girls like lean into me. They're our, if our boys are having a challenge, we bring a different perspective. um seeing my girlfriend like kind of beat herself up if things weren't perfect, right? Like three kids is way different than one child. Seeing what Ben goes through, like managing and just loving on his kids so much, but trying to make it all work. And seeing my people I love the most beat themselves up over it. And from the outside, I'm like, oh my God, you're doing amazing. Like you're doing amazing
Yeah.
and perfect. And it's having that tribe around you. Or like, I saw my girlfriend kind of reach her wits end, and I stepped in because she's okay with me doing that. And like we need that. And that will roll in if you're ready to roll into like one of my points. But why don't
Yeah.
you set the stage for us if you're ready?
Well, yeah. I mean, it was really just a case of, right. Look, this is a top 1% podcast now, and the longer it goes, the more elite we're going to become.
Mhm.
But I say that tongue in cheek for anyone just listening without the video. I didn't see my cheeky smile, but it got me thinking. All right, what does it take to be top 1% in anything? I can point to a few instances in my life being top 1% at something. Um, but this was a nice kind of milestone of like, all right, we're here right now, and we both work with, and we're both very good at what we do, and I'd like to say that we we would consider ourselves top 1% at, coaching and whatnot. Like, what have we found being around these elite types of people? I don't say that in an elitist way. I just mean people who are at the top of their game.
Yeah.
Like, what have we seen? What do we experience? What does it take to be top 1% at anything? And I figured we'll both take two or three kind of things. I'm sure we'll overlap because we didn't talk about which other points were, but yeah, what does it take to be top 1%?
Yeah. When you asked that, I was like, boom, boom, boom. I have my three.
Yeah,
And I've experienced what life and things look like when all three are working, and I've also experienced when all three aren't working. So it's like this no brainer of just failing forward. So for me, it's not just the growth mindset. My big passion is about struggle. Struggle is a gift, and that is the only way that we grow. So the ability to and willingness to get uncomfortable, willingness to do things when you don't feel like doing it,
yeah,
willingness to look at challenges as like, okay, here's my opportunity. For me, number one, you've got to be in that mindset. Two, it's the people. Who are you around? And that will make you or break you. And you can have a big tribe or a small tribe or whatever word you want to, your crew, whatever you want to apply to it. All you need is one person, though. All you
hmm
need is one person that believes in you and pushes you in healthy ways. And you can move mountains and do so
yeah,
much more than you ever expected. Same time, all it takes is one person is to totally pull you down and
yeah,
derail you. So every person matters. And then three is consistency. It's like
yeah,
whatever you're doing, you've got to be committed to doing it. And that doesn't mean that you can't change your mind or change path or recommit, but consistent just got to consistently do it every day, whether it's your personal health, your business, your relationships. So growth mindset, but beyond that, like being willing to go through the pain of struggle,
yeah,
the people that you have around you, and being consistent. You do that,
yeah,
like, but this is the truth. Most people aren't even in the top 10%. Most people aren't even in the top 50%.
yeah.
And if you
Very
want
true.
to be top 1%, that is elite. That is world class. And if
Yeah,
that sounds pompous or arrogant, yeah, there's a reason that it does, because very few people operate in those worlds. And it is not something that you just arrive at. Like, you have to work your way through so much to get there. And once you're there, it's every day doing those things to keep yourself there, because you want to show up for everyone around you at that level. There's now no level it's acceptable that's less than that, than less than your
yeah.
best self.
100% agree. So let's unpack those a little bit. So growth mindset's interesting, right? Because you either have it or you don't. And some people are um, more kind of, I don't know what the right word is. It comes more naturally to them. They're a bit more open to being in a growth mindset.
Risk takers, they're less
Yeah,
sensitive, they not as
but
analytical.
you can you can work on it. It is a skill as much as it is a mindset. And what advice can we give to people to help them achieve that growth mindset? Because sometimes you just speak to people and you just know they just don't they see through it's always half empty,
Yeah.
you know. Um, what can people do to help them kind of calibrate themselves so they look at things as a half full kind
Yeah.
of
It starts with a reality check. It starts with really looking at where you are in your life right now. And that can be a super scary place for
yeah,
people. A quick way to do it monetarily and work wise is a budget, right? You start putting your budget, you start looking at where your money is going. That's a huge reality check, and most people avoid it because it's scary, or they just kind of want to ignorance is bliss. But you need a reality check on where your life is. Like, are you happy? Are you showing up the way that you want to show up? And just being really real with yourself. And you can do that on your own. I recommend you do it with someone that you trust, whether it's a coach or a good friend, and just getting like we can't get to where we want to go if we don't even know where we're starting at.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong, there's nothing bad. If you're not where you want to be, that's okay. But you've got to acknowledge it in order to be able to move from there. So I think recognizing that unless you have everything that you want in your life and you've achieved and your full potential, which I don't think is possible, you have to acknowledge that the comfort zone, the things that have been keeping you safe, is really not comfortable. There's pain in the comfort zone. The thing is, it's the pain you know and the pain you can manage versus the potential pain that's outside of that comfort zone. So it's like the devil you know versus the devil that you don't know. So realizing that the comfort zone is actually not comfortable, you're not reaching your potential, you don't have the things in your life that you want to have, and that willingness to get a reality check on it and then just take super small steps, like pick one thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I remember a specific time in my life where I've always been, you know, seeking to learn more, and but you can get into a habit of it's always someone else's fault, and woe is me. This is, I'm not where I want to be. But there was a good period of my life about 3 years ago now where I really put the time in to change how I looked at life in general. And a couple of things that worked for me was just immersing myself in self-development, and it's just constantly having to remind yourself, like listening to audiobooks, reading books. If I watched stuff on YouTube, it had to be about growth and becoming a better person. So really finding people that speak to you in that way. What might resonate with me is not going to resonate for you, and just find something that does. And then just this is the real practice that it takes. Every time something happens to you, think, how do I see the positive in this situation, as bad as it is?
Yeah.
And I've had to do that with my youngest son, Braden, who's on the spectrum. Like, all right, what is the universe? And you can go religious with it, it's spiritual. What is the universe? What is God putting me in this position with my son? How am I supposed to grow from this?
Mm.
What is he supposed to get out of life because of what he's been dealt? All of these things where and you have to see the positive in it, and that's how you start. Once you do it over and over again, or just even if someone cuts you off, we've talked about road rage on here before. Instead of shouting at them or flipping the bird, it's just, all right, they must be in a rush. Go ahead, brother,
Yep.
get on your way. All these, but it takes a lot of practice, and you always have to stop, take a second, and then have that conversation with yourself. Who was it? Mel Robbins who had that 5 second rule?
Yeah, yes, or when she was going to get out of bed in the morning.
I don't know about that. There was one where it's like you take 5 seconds before you even think about something.
Yeah.
It's like you get some bad news or whatever, 5 seconds. All right, and now have that conversation with yourself.
Yeah.
But it takes a commitment, our favorite word. You've got to
Yes.
be committed to yourself for that.
Well, there's a lot of science behind this as well, and I don't
Yeah.
want to go too far down that path, but nervous system regulation, what you just mentioned, that 5 seconds, there's the reactive brain and then there's the responding brain.
Yeah.
And that's where people say, take a deep breath. The deep breath is to just let whatever emotion, whatever information just came in to actually go down your spine and come back up to your prefrontal cortex, which is where logic is.
Yeah.
So it's giving yourself those few seconds where it's going to be a much more logical response versus a reaction. But what you keep saying, I'm hearing Amy said this, on last week's podcast, it's really about what you feed your brain. It's really
Yeah.
about what you're consuming.
What you're eating and
Yeah,
drinking.
it's everything. It's
Yeah.
everything. You're fueling your body with everything that you're doing, your physical food intake and hydration and all of that, but what you are choosing to listen to, what you are choosing to consume, and not just learning for learning's sake. This is about learning for doing sake, right? Taking action on things that are coming in that resonate with you. Maybe not everything, but if you're listening to 10 podcasts and doing personal development, but you're not actually taking any action, there's a disconnect there.
Yeah. Well, just I mean, on the podcast front of like, if you're listening, for example, you want to improve your relationship with your husband or your wife, and you're listening to podcasts where women are just trashing their husband, men are talking shit about women, that's not going to help you.
No, no.
Why are you consuming it? You put yourself in this bubble of information that's going to alter how you think. And to bring that back to being a top 1%, I don't know anybody that is successful that doesn't have that growth mindset and can waste their time on things that don't encourage growth
Right.
or don't help them along their path to the goal.
You have to have that because when you get into the top of your game, I hate even speaking this, but I'm going to. You naturally there's haters, right? There you get people
Yeah,
out there that whether it's jealousy or envy or whatever it might be, you become in the spotlight and people want to either celebrate you or pick you apart. And you have to be that focused because as a human being, especially a feeling human being, it does impact you when people are saying negative things or talking about you or not believing you, whatever it might be. You have like that conviction of doing what you're doing, that conviction of that mindset and not allowing the bad talk to creep in. That's got to be there because it's got to pull you very quickly out of going down a path of arguing with someone or defending yourself or proving something. That mindset will pull you through all of that garbage and junk, and you'll be resonating so much higher above it that you won't even notice a lot of it.
yeah. And so what, consistency was another one of yours?
Yes.
Huge. I mean, I think about all the successful people I admire, and they always show up in the same way. And there are people I admire that I don't necessarily like. I don't agree with some of their business practices or their ethics, but they're consistent, and I admire what they've built. And
Yeah.
to me, it's even just little things like, I mean, if you go and look at all of the podcast episodes that we recorded, the two of us are pretty much in the same clothes all the time. There's just variations of it, right? But like that comes down to it. If you're wasting energy on what you're going to wear that day, and then that makes you late for appointments, that is never going to lead to you fulfilling your most
Right.
potential. And by the way, we're saying all this, people can do well and not live this way and not have these traits and practice these actions, but they ain't top 1%.
Right. Yeah, and it's not, you and I are saying this. It's not that that's better than the other. It's all about what you want. You and I happen to be very competitive people, and there is a reward that comes with hard work being equated to where you sit, right? As far
Yeah.
as like as compared to others. And it's not even about comparing yourself to others. It's just like we're taking time out of our businesses, we're taking time out of our family life, we're taking time out of our personal life to do this. The goal is to help at least one person. And if we're going to do it, you and I both are like, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it the best that we can.
Yeah.
And my
Yeah. We
favorite
talk
quote:
about, what is it?
beware the lollipop of mediocrity. Lick it once and you suck forever.
I think you've only told that a couple of times. Always makes me chuckle.
Yeah, like that's just, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it to the best of my ability.
Yeah. I mean, and just think that there are millions of podcasts. And by the way, this isn't for us to tap our own backs or anything, but there are millions of podcasts. Why is it that only 1% get to 20 episodes? It's
Mm,
because they lack consistency.
mm-hmm.
They give up. People don't, like you said, prioritize their time to work towards their goal. And I can't think of anyone in any field that hasn't consistently shown up and not achieved what they wanted to.
Yeah.
And going back to that growth mindset, like I can point to things where, and I didn't show up consistently because it wasn't actually what my priority was. I just thought it was. But, like even in real estate, I wasn't consistent with my actions, the things that Amy was talking about last week that you need to do every
Mhm.
single day, because it wasn't a priority to me. But, if I'd done those things consistently, maybe I'd be thriving in that field.
Yeah.
Um, but it just goes back to having to do it. Show up every single day. Do the little small detail things that you need to do.
And I think if there's a reason you're not doing it, and this is a conversation I have with myself, with you, with my clients, with our clients, there's a difference between I'm fully committed to this and it's actually something I want and I need to be doing I'm not doing the action items consistently, figure it out, get on track.
Yeah,
And the other flip side of that is like there's a reason that I'm not doing this consistently. When I'm passionate about something, it pulls me through. Like I'm doing those things consistently because like there's no other choice. So I don't believe in forcing yourself into something that you're not passionate about, or maybe you thought was the right path and you made a commitment to it. Like get off that path. If it is not driving you, if it is not pulling you through, then it means there's something else meant for you. And too
yeah,
many people live very unhappy lives because they committed to something in their 20s and you know they're riding out their lives totally unfulfilled, struggling,
100%.
not wanting to go to bed every day. So like listen to yourself on both sides. If it's pulling you, awesome, go towards it. If it's not pulling you, just ask yourself, well, is it just because it's hard and I need to get through this moment? Or it's like, is this no longer really a priority for me?
Yeah, I mean, and that goes back to the growth mindset and just thinking in that way. And what was the third one?
People.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh, yes.
consistency was
Oh,
the
yeah.
third one because I think
Yes.
that was almost hierarchied for me. Like
That's
you've
why I
got to have the
remembered it.
growth mindset, be willing to go through the struggle. Then it's the people. Then it's the consistency.
Yeah, it's interesting. I went to this meditation thing, what was it, 18 months ago now? I
Hmm.
may have talked about it on here. Um, where it was about your Akashic records, where you're tapping into the Akashic records, which the simple, TLDR version is there's we're talking spiritually here, there's a history of all thoughts and all things that have happened before, and you're able to tap into that and be guided by it in life, etc. But anyway, afterwards, I followed the woman who held the class and get this long message from her, which I feel like the way it was written, it sounded like it wasn't someone who spoke English as their first language,
Hmm.
which she did. So I feel like it was probably like someone that worked for her that was handling her
VA.
social account.
Yeah.
But something she said in it really hit me, and whether she actually knew or not was kind of irrelevant because it really made me think and audit who do I have around me, because what she said was um, something along the lines of like you've got really positive energy. You're gonna you can tell you're gonna be really successful in whatever you want to do, but you have someone around you, someone close to you that is holding you back because of jealousy,
Mm.
and that made me really question. All right, who do I have around me? And again, whether or not that's actually true,
Mm.
that they were able to tell that from meeting me briefly in a group and then by looking at my Instagram profile, didn't matter because it is very true. There probably are people in your life right now that are holding you back because of the energy they're emitting towards you. And it can be the simplest of things. Like if I tell you something, I can tell from your face whether or not it's a good idea or a bad idea. And just the slightest, if you were jealous of something I was saying, which you don't have that personality type, I would know, and that would just the little like upturn in your lip or whatever it is, like whatever your friend's tells are,
Mm.
that can discourage you from pursuing something that you want to do. Just like the tiniest things like that really do have a massive impact on the actions you then take. So yeah, having people around you is huge.
There's even a more dangerous person than the jealous person. And that can be the person that loves you. They love you. They're so nervous for you. Their risk taking
Yeah.
level is different than yours. And it is coming from love. It's not coming from jealousy. They are trying to protect you. They're like, I don't want you to get hurt. I don't want you to feel this. So sometimes the people that love you the most can also be the ones that are holding you back. And that's one of the most challenging relationships because, of course, they're going to be in your life and they're doing it from great intentions. But you have to be really careful still about who you're listening to. And you can learn that, you know what? maybe it's your mom, right? It's not my mom. My mom's like, she knows there's no stopping me. Um, but maybe it's your mom, and maybe you're like, you know what? I'm not going to share this, at the holiday dinner table because I know my mom loves me and she's afraid for me to get hurt or make a mistake. And I just don't want to hear that energy, right? So you have to be really careful about those that are closest to you, that they don't necessarily see risk the way that you see risk. They don't necessarily um, take the same chances, right? So they might not understand, especially if you're an entrepreneur. It is very hard for people that don't have that mindset to really get what drives an
which most
entrepreneur.
don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had conversations with people who are close to me who, when I kind of entered the corporate world, the kind of messaging from them was kind of, it's okay just to have a regular job kind of thing.
Yeah.
Even though, I'm like, this isn't where I'm going to end up. I'm happy, and it kind of will lead into one of the key things I think you need to have for being top 1%. But like, I'm happy to hang out for a little bit because I got patience
Yeah.
to know that I've got to do some work to get back to where I want to be. But luckily, I was able to identify that this is probably not someone I should listen to because we're not the same type of person.
Yeah.
And say it's not to say that you should only be around people that will agree with you. It's just if you're going to have people that don't share your beliefs of what you should have for your life,
Mm-hmm.
just know that you shouldn't listen to them.
Yeah.
There is much more in life to talk about than just where you want to be. But at the same time, beware of the energy vampires. If people are outwardly negative towards what you want to achieve, or I shouldn't even say outwardly, just even if you're picking up on tells that they don't believe in you,
Mm-hmm.
then you probably should minimize the time you spend with them.
Yeah. I love when someone challenges me or expresses their concerns. Like that's
Yeah.
important. It either deepens my conviction on it, or sometimes I'm like, oh, you know what? I need to consider that because I can move too fast. I can make decisions very quickly. Um, so it's important to have people around you that still believe in you, but that can ask you some great questions.
Yeah.
Definitely don't want just yes people around you.
Yeah, but again, there's a difference between like, because you do this to me all the time. You ask me good questions, you challenge me, but it's never in a way to discourage me.
Yeah.
It's to make sure I believe in what I'm saying, and it's not just a rash decision.
Yeah. Well, because I believe in you.
Yeah,
If
and you
you
definitely
told
want
me
those
I'm going to
people around.
fly off a building tomorrow, I'd believe in you. I would be scared for you, but I believe that you would find your way to do it, right? So I'm like, okay, cool. I don't get it. I don't understand it, but I can tell that this is really important to him. He's fully committed to it. So how can I show up to support him?
Yeah, I'm just picturing myself in a bird costume, standing at the top of a.
It's like a little mask.
I,
All right.
well,
So
I'm scared of heights. So I wouldn't be up there anyway.
what are your top three? So I'm hearing like what you're consuming, right? Like personal growth. What are your three keys?
My first one's patience, which is kind of
Mm,
what I was alluding to there. Um, it's really interesting because I think the tech bros have kind of created a bit of a misconception that success happens really quickly. Like you need to have your unicorn company by the time you're 28, otherwise you're shit. But it takes a lot. Like I love Gary Vee and his whole thing on this because he didn't even start his wine library TV until he was about my age, like
mhm,
37, 38. He wouldn't even know who he was on a broad level until he was in his mid 40s.
mhm.
And you know, and he tells people all the time, like, you're still young. This could change for you in your 60s. And patience is so important because there are so many levels to getting to the top 1% that if you don't have the patience for it, you're going to get discouraged at some point and just stop.
Yeah.
You've got to be patient. And by the way, things might happen like that. I mean, look how quickly things worked out for you with your accountability stuff. But then we can say, well, look at all the work it took to get there in the first place,
Yeah.
right? If you hadn't done that and been patient,
Yeah.
worked in that job that you weren't particularly happy in for a while and gone through all the real estate stuff, wouldn't be where you are now. And it takes patience to
Mhm.
get there.
Yeah.
And by the way, I have to remind myself about that all the time because I'm always behind. I'm always needing to get to the next place. But
Yeah.
it's
Sometimes
so much
people think
patience.
sometimes people think patience means slow, and it doesn't necessarily mean that, right? Like when you move fast and there's urgency, right? There's just natural personalities that just move with more urgency. That word patience feels like can feel like lack or too slow. And I think it's really the way you're bringing it up is kind of leaning into like the consistency. Just keep doing it. Just,
Hmm.
have the patience to go through the process
Yes,
for the
exactly.
journey, the patience for the journey, right? You can't skip the steps. Like you've got to go through them.
Yeah. And I'll give an example from personal experience, right? So I did my health coaching certification through Precision Nutrition it was about 2 years ago now, actually.
Mhm.
Um, got it, and I was just like, I just don't feel like I know enough
Mhm.
to make the impact I want to make. Like they were great at teaching the coaching side of things, how to get people to change their behavior and stuff, which is great. But what I want to do is really clinically help people along, and of course have to know how to coach them in the first place. But so now I'm doing FDN, which I'm nearly done with. Um, and it's been 2 years since the idea came to my head, and of course I've taken a few different detours. I went back into real estate and all this stuff, but I've been patient with it, and I'm on the precipice of being where I want to be and starting that exciting part of the journey.
Yeah.
But it takes patience,
Yeah.
and I think if I jumped in back then, I don't think it would have. I probably would have hit so many roadblocks because it wasn't truly where I wanted to be that I would have just stopped altogether and been burnt from it.
Yeah. All right. I love it. So patience, number one. I did not expect that from you.
Yeah.
What's
Um, Exercise,
mm,
honestly,
mm,
and I'm like this, and it's not about being in ripped abs and all that. It's about people. I don't know anyone that's truly successful that doesn't exercise.
mm-hmm.
And then you step back and say, okay, why? Why is exercise important? Kind of plays into my first point. It's the delayed gratification.
Mm,
When you exercise, you're not going to get the reward straight away.
mm-hmm.
It's always 6 months, a year, and it's all those compound going. It kind of merges yours,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
consistency and patience. And I just think if you want to be top 1%, you're going to be healthy. And one of the easiest levers to pull is exercise.
Yeah. Yes, 100% to all of that. And there are some immediate gratifications with exercise, right? You get a mindset shift instantly,
Oh,
right?
that's true. I mean, you
You
get your dopamine and all that too.
yeah, like there's the long term of it, which a million percent with what you're saying, but there's exercise is so important just for the mindset hit for me it's proving to myself that I do what I say I'm going to do,
Hmm.
and I'm nowhere near where I want to be fitness wise, but I can 100% say like I am consistently working towards it and doing my best, and is I'm making different shifts. But there is many instant immediate gratifications that come with exercise and activity, and let alone the fact that you need the energy to deliver, you know, elite or world class in anything that you're doing, right? How can I
Yeah.
get up on stage and bring it to an entire room and control that room with my energy if my body is not feeling good?
Yeah. Exactly. And again, it's not about being in great shape and stuff because I know people say, well, look at someone like Elon Musk. He works out.
Mm-hmm.
He does mixed martial arts and stuff, and there's just I don't know anybody that is not truly at the top of their game that doesn't exercise in some form.
Yeah. There are a lot of studies that show people in really excellent physical condition, and their what they make monetarily,
Yeah.
and there's more income at the higher levels of physical fitness,
Well,
as
and it's
compared.
interesting. There's one of the influencers I really like. he was James Smith. He was talking about this. He did a video and it was like, why are he came from being a personal trainer. So why are so many personal trainers becoming huge YouTube influencers?
Mhm.
And his point was it's because they learned that, you know, consistently making small strides,
Mhm.
having the patience to slowly build an audience, and then, you know, eventually the rewards come.
Yeah.
Yeah, exercise really is, if you want to, going back to the growth mindset, like you said, if you want to start there.
Yeah. And people are attracted to what they want, right?
Hmm.
You, and you don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. So if I want to get into good shape, I'm looking at other people that I admire the physical condition that they're in. Like I want what they have. So I want to listen to them. How did they get there?
Yeah,
Um so okay, so fitness, so patience, exercise.
yeah. Focus.
Okay?
And I say that because you have to be able to eliminate so many
Mhm.
distractions to become elite at something. I mean, I think of the sports stars and all of that, and the top 1%, your Ronaldos, your Messis in soccer, your Djokovic's, your Federer's in tennis. Uh, you know, look at Rory McIlroy who just won the Masters.
Mhm.
So focused,
Mhm.
and you know, it kind of goes back to what we were saying about wasting time and what you consume and stuff. But you ain't going to become 1% if you're wasting time watching trash TV, if you're wasting time gossiping about people, um, or if you're just expending energy on things that aren't worth it. Um, so yeah, focus, man. And I have to remind myself of that a lot. I can get distracted with chasing some of the wrong things, but focus.
Yeah. It's chaos is this place, and I'm bringing up the word chaos because chaos to me is like the opposite of focus. Chaos can be amazing. I am a chaos creator. You are also a little bit of a chaos creator. That's how we generate things, right? That can be very energizing, and we can truly drive ourselves, a team, an entire group through kind of that chaos energy creation. The other flip side of chaos is that it allows you to not focus. So when we talked about getting that reality check on where things are, people stay up in that chaos because it's too scary to actually come down and focus on what's actually happening. It's much easier to say, I have all these things to do. I get to be an overwhelm. This is why I can't do this. I don't do this. I had to let you down. I had to not keep my commitment. It becomes this really good excuse because I'm so busy.
Yeah.
I'm so busy. I have all these things going on. I can't do this. I'm in overwhelm. And people just run down that road. Being focused is like can be a really scary place to be.
Oh yeah. Well, and also being focused amidst the chaos. You know, what you were
Mm,
talking there just kind of made me think that too. I'm able to make good decisions under a lot of stress, under a lot of
yeah.
pressure. Um, it made me think of a story from a couple of years back when Mason had stood on a thorn and his foot was bleeding and he was screaming on the floor. And I slapped him in the face and I shouted at him, "Shut the fuck up!"
Oh my God.
And then I just pulled the thorn out. But I couldn't concentrate because he was screaming. I had to
Yeah.
focus.
Oh my
Amy was in
gosh.
the doorway. She was like, "That was kind of hot, actually." But you know, like I had to take charge and eliminate those distractions. And maybe a bit of a sidetrack thing, but it just made me think of that story. Um, I didn't slap him too hard, by the way. It
Child services is
made him
about to
stop
come knock
crying.
on your door. Slap my child. Well, that's also a pattern interrupt. That's an
Yeah,
extreme form of a
exactly.
pattern interrupt. But yeah, that's a great point. It's being focused among the chaos. It's being focused just among life. Life is always going to be happening, and I envision just this cloud of stuff circulating around me, and to be able to be calm and focused in those moments because you're never really gonna. Those things never really go away. They're always there. It's just a matter of being able to say, okay, what do I need to take care of right now? It's one of the reasons I love being around the horses is that
Hmm.
it forces me to be present, because if I'm not present, the moment you lose focus that you're around a 2,000 pound animal, is when you get hurt or someone gets hurt. So there's these, and I think that's why hobbies are so important for people, especially where it requires a skill. You have to be focused. We need to remind our brain what it feels like to not be multitasking, to
Yeah.
like need to be concentrated on something and
Yeah,
focused
that's
on
what I love,
something.
and I need to get back into it. I love playing soccer, just even if it's just once a week,
Yeah.
because nothing for that 50, 60 minutes
Yeah.
mattered apart from
Yeah.
putting that ball in the goal.
Yeah.
That's all that mattered.
I love it.
And you can do things to help improve your focus, so then you have focus on the right things by doing stuff like that, being around your animals or
Mm-hmm.
doing an activity or a sport or something, just to keep your mind sharp. But yeah, I don't know anybody that isn't focused, and
Mm-hmm.
we're very focused on this. I know even when we're not recording, we're always thinking about maybe that'd be a good topic for the podcast, or we're sharing
Yeah.
ideas about it. Um, Being focused is huge. Yeah,
All right. Let's recap it. So, focus, patience, physical exercise. We both talked about mindset, right? And that's like for me it's that struggle is a gift. So,
hmm
recognizing struggles as you mentioned, obstacles as opportunities, the people that you're spending your time around, and consistency. 6 things.
yeah,
And honestly, if you're even doing 2 of them, you're going to be way ahead of the game. Just a matter of
yeah.
how
Honestly,
easy you're making it on yourself.
yeah. It reminds me of a story of they did this secret shopper thing of real estate agents, and they
Mm,
had people sign up on websites to see what the kind of follow up was from the real estate agent. And it was like 47%
mm,
didn't even respond
mm.
to the person signing up on their site. So my point to agents who I work with is always just by responding, you're already doing better than 50%.
Yeah.
So to your point, just doing one or two of the things we've talked about, you're going to be way ahead of the game.
It takes very little. It takes very little to be above average.
hmm
Um, and we can overcomplicate it. We don't need to do that. We can keep it simple and just keep every day. What can I do to be a little better? What can I do to be a little better? And keep listening to the podcast.
Yeah, we're going to keep helping you get better.
Who are we going to have
Um,
on next?
well, we've got a couple of one guy we're gonna have on. We're delaying. He's just had a death in the family, so he's pushing back.
Mm-hmm.
We need to get my brother-in-law on.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be a good next one. Talking about
Awesome.
elite, some of the top soccer players in the world he gets to work with. So
So cool.
that'd be a good conversation.
Okay. And every time we talk about soccer, we always get bumped up in our in the hits. Like, there's a lot of people out there that love that, and that's what I love about us. I think there's really something for everyone, and maybe not everyone, but you know, we talk about leadership, we talk about action, we talk about so many different things that there's really you've got to be able to pull one thing to add value to your life, one thing to take and share and add value to someone else's life. And that's what this is about. It's about helping each other and helping others, be their full potential. Goes back to what we talked about, the 10 commitments of accountability. It's not only being committed to being your best self, but it's being committed to helping those around you be their best self. That's
Yeah.
the true win. So,
Well, yeah, and I think that's a good place to close at is
yeah.
maybe you don't want to be the top 1% in a field
Hmm.
or a career or something, but you want to be the top 1% of the potential you have to be the best version of you.
Yeah.
So you're showing up for your family, you're showing up for your friends in the best way.
Yeah.
Um, I want to make sure that that's not lost in the message. It's not just about being the top 1% at something. It's being the top 1% version of you,
Yeah.
because there's so much we talked about today that you can implement into your own life just on a personal level. That
Yeah.
both you and I have been through struggle. We've been through some storms, and we know we're here on the other side of it, and knowing what it feels like having done that.
Hmm.
So I would, as we always say, just one person. I would love to hear has picked up something from here and changed how they viewed life and get something from it.
Yeah. And happy 20 episodes, buddy.
Yeah. Many 20 more.
20, many 20 more. Well, I'm
I think
having a lot of fun.
we're like a year and change away from hitting 100.
Okay.
That's the next time we're celebrating 100.
Let's go. Okay, next we need to do a bigger celebration. We're gonna do something live. Maybe our 100th episode is like an event.
Well, we talked about that yonks ago about doing something. I think we said we would do it in February.
Well, okay.
That didn't work out.
We both know. But we'll get there. We're doing it. All right. And anyone who's still listening, thank you. We love you guys, and we're here for you. So comment, post, ask questions, propose topics. If you want to be a guest, let us know. This is just the beginning.
It is.